Now, before I talk about my story of the narcissistic abuse experience, I would like first of all to talk about why I'm breaking empath free. Why am I breaking empath free? So you see, when you talk about abuse, people think that the society has programmed us to think that when you talk about domestic violence, abuse, we're talking about women, women, children. People talk about domestic violence. The very first thing they run, those governments will run to protect the women and the children. A lot of people don't understand that actually men are going through abuse. So many people don't understand that so many men around the world, a lot of them, millions and billions of them, are going through abuse. So people are programmed to think that it is only the women thing. When you talk about women abuse, it's only the women thing. So it's the women who are abused, because a lot of times you see those women crying, coming out and crying, and trying to play the victim. Oh, the man did like that, and the man did like this. So people don't really understand that the abuse also includes men. A lot of men are suffering in silence. You can see a lot of men, those guys in, a lot of the men in your area, public figures, celebrities. A lot of men are going through narcissistic abuse and they're suffering in silence because they're afraid to come out and speak, because they think when they speak, they're going to lose a part of their body, a piece of their body, or is going to do something to their ego. So a lot of them have also got as well ego issues. So they're very much afraid to come out and speak, because they're supposed to be apparently the men in the society. So when they abuse, they should be sitting in their rooms and keeping quiet about this kind of things like that. So I encourage men to come out and speak. I'm encouraging men. If you know you have been abused by a narcissist, you can always use your voice, come out and speak your experience. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, you're also going to inspire a lot of men out there to start coming out and speak, because a lot of men are hiding in their houses with very many toxic women, and they're afraid to come out to their families or whatever and speak about this, because they don't know what people are going to think about them. You have got to come out. I'm encouraging men, so I lead by example, just to let the world know that men also get abused, especially by narcissists. Some of them have come out, some of them are still hiding in the closet, but eventually I hope at one point, many of them. So it's, I want to motivate a lot of men who are going through these kind of things to come out and speak your truth. Guys, let me tell you something. There's nothing wrong with speaking your truth. Some people will criticize you, some people will laugh at you, some people will mock you, but at the end of the day, you're on your little path, and nobody's going to walk this path for you. At the end of the day, you're speaking your voice and you're speaking your truth. There's nobody was there when you're being abused. So you should be able to come out and speak about these kind of things. They're very, very sensitive and very important for the world out there to know what is going on behind the scenes. Secondly, there was an incident which happened, which I'm going to tell you in this video. I've normally not shared that particular incident. Actually, I've never shared that for the 3 years I've been on YouTube. But today I want to let you guys in a little bit. We're going to dive in a little bit. I'm going to let you guys know the real dangers of dating a narcissist, and the worst that can happen when you do not choose your life and when you do not choose yourself over the narcissist. And then as well, I know the dangers. I know how difficult it is. I know how serious is narcissistic abuse. I've been there, guys. I've told you, I've been there so many times, so many years, 7 years, including so many years I've been involved with dysfunctional families. So I know exactly what is narcissistic abuse. And I know this is something that can also lead to somebody taking their own life. You guys have been hearing about suicide. You've been hearing about so many situations about people who have taken their own life because they have been abused by narcissists. And at the end of the day, they have got nothing to live for. They have already been completely broken down psychologically, mentally, emotionally, and they do not have another reason to live. So a lot of people, you've had them, they have taken their own lives. And me personally, I've seen a lot of people who have been destroyed. I've told you guys, when you're living with the narcissist, you have got to go back in their the line of, you've got to go back and look in the line, along the lines of their exes. And you're going to see how much of an impact those guys have have destroyed their life. How have they destroyed their life? Those exes of the narcissists, you know what I mean? Go back and look at them. You're going to see some of them have already died. Some of them have already taken their lives. Some of them are in hospitals. A lot of them, they're on the streets. A lot of them, they are zombies. So I chose to come out and speak and break empaths free because I thought that at least I will be able to save a life or two. You know what I mean? If God was able to spare me, if God managed to spare me and keep me alive until this moment to witness all these things that I've gone through as a survivor, a thriver of narcissistic abuse. So I chose that I'm going to come out at least whenever I can. I'll put in the effort to come out and break empaths free so that I can help other individuals around the world to get out of this mess. You know what I mean? Because these narcissists, I've already told you guys, these are demons, which is even one of the biggest reasons why I'm breaking empaths free, because I already know what is narcissistic abuse. Nobody can convince me otherwise. There's no amount of science, there's no amount of psychology. I do not care about medics. Nobody is going to come around and convince me otherwise. I already know and have confirmed narcissism is spiritual, so this whole thing is demonic. So this whole thing you hear about psychology this and psychology that, they're trying to sugarcoat the abuse. You know what I mean? The Matrix is trying to sugarcoat the abuse, these narcissists, to sugarcoat them a little bit, to add a little bit of honey on their faces, so that they can say, oh, you know, it's a personality disorder, so that they can get away with it. You know what I mean? It is very easy for these narcissists to get away with it. They finish destroying people, even sometimes killing people, and then they can get away with it. And then the media will come around and they will say, it was been there was a guy, you rarely hear them talking about psychopaths or things like that. You hear them talking about a very abusive man killed his family. You know what I mean? A very abusive man, domestic violence, and the things like that. You rarely hear them coming out and addressing that these individuals, they are psychopaths. You rarely hear the media coming around and talking about narcissists in the media. They are protecting these narcissists and they're sugarcoating them. So they finish abusing and destroying people. And then the media is coming around and telling people that they've got a personality disorder. So how are you going to prosecute a person? How are you going to bring a person to justice that he has got a personality disorder? So the narcissist is going to get away with it, and the victims are going to continue to suffer. So that's the reason why I've always come out here. I've told you guys, you can forget about those stories about disorder this and disorder that. The narcissists we are dealing with, you guys are dealing with demons. So this thing is spiritual warfare. You have got to be aware of it. It may be very hard for you to understand. A lot of you guys who have not yet awakened, who are still in those cycles of abuse, it may be very difficult for you to understand. But most of us who have seen it, we know what we have seen. So for the most of you guys who have, if this video finds you well, I bless you, and I hope something will click or ring a bell in your ears. If a person who is trying to wake up, you've been struggling with this man or a woman in your house, and your parents, and you don't know what is happening, maybe you're dealing with a narcissist, you think that, oh, maybe there's something wrong with them, they're going to change tomorrow, they will change the other day. So I'm here to confirm to you that you're dealing with demons. And I'm here as well to confirm to you that it is in your best interest to start working out of that entanglement as soon as you can. If you want to leave, you start working now. That is my slogan. I always say, if you want to leave, you should even start working yesterday. If you have been involved with a narcissist, you were supposed to start moving and running out of those entanglements yesterday. So the narcissist experience almost killed me. Now you see, in the last days of the narcissist, you guys already know that these narcissists, what they do. So normally when they're with you, they will try to make it very, very difficult for you to leave. You know what I mean? So they first of all entangle you very hard, trauma bond and all these kind of things, and they close you up in those entanglements very, very quickly, number one, and very strongly. So most of the time you will experience times whereby you're trying to leave those narcissists, and you're thinking that, why is it difficult to leave these individuals? You're trying to run, you're trying to get away, because this is abuse. It is abuse. you understand that this person is abusing you, this man or woman, they're abusing you. You're trying to live and you do not know how to live. I tried to leave the nurses for 7 years, ladies and gentlemen. It is until recently I got the guts at the age of 40 to leave my family. I left my family at the age of 40. And I stayed with the nurses for 7 years. So when I'm talking about leaving the nurses, I know how difficult it is to leave a narcissist. It was very difficult for me in those days because I was thinking that I really need to leave this person. There's something wrong with this individual I don't understand. I'm trying to run off, but it's like there are some hooks. You know what I mean? So they have got this kind of hooks. They hook you up. They'll entangle you in so many bills, so many credits, finances, loans. So they will attach themselves financially to you. So they'll put you in financial credit and financial debt. So most of the times they will have kids with you, 4 kids, 3 kids. So they will do everything to make sure that they hook you up. The nurses, they do these things tactically because it is the only way they can make it hard for you to leave. Whenever you're going to leave, you want to leave them, you're going to be, you'll be thinking about the kids. What am I going to do with the kids? You know, how am I going to deal with my children? What am I going to do with this? What am I going to do with the banks? The banks are after you. You have got a house together. You bought a business together. You cannot leave. So I was thinking about this for 7 years. I knew that I was involved in a toxic relationship, but I didn't know what exactly was going on. So I couldn't understand that this was narcissism. You know what I mean? So it was very, very difficult for me to figure it out. So eventually, anyway, in those days, the last days of that entanglement, what happened is that I was going through so much pain. You know what I mean? It was very, very difficult. So there was a child in there. I had a child by that time. We had a child, and I did not want to leave my child behind. So I was thinking that even if I leave this entanglement, because the case was not about the narcissist, I was not much worried about the narcissist. I knew that the narcissist would leave. Eventually, of course, I would go through a lot of pain, but there was this thing with my child. You know what I mean? So so when the discard happened, I remember it was very painful. Now, the discard with the narcissist, I've told you guys in my videos that the discard with the narcissist is it is not like the same way you break up with a healthy individual. When you break up with a healthy individual, you do not have toxic attachments with them. Now, listen to this one, is very important, guys. When you've been with a healthy individual, a person who never really abused or manipulated or did all these kind of things to you, when you break up with those individuals, you will break up with them, but you will not have toxic attachments to them. But when you have broken up with a narcissist, you are dealing with a trauma bond. So you have been attached to the narcissist in some way of manipulation and abuse. You know what I mean? So there's something that they call the pull and push. So in those days, I could feel this intensively at the end of the discard. So that was at the beginning of the discard. You know what I mean? So a lot of times you say that, oh, I'm going to leave the narcissist, but the real leaving the narcissist, you will feel it mostly like 1 or 2 or 3 days after the discard. That's when you're going to see the intensity of how much the narcissist has trauma bonded you over the years, especially if you've been with them for a very long period of time. That's why you see a lot of people when they leave narcissists, they run off and commit suicide. When people leave narcissists, you can know that how dangerous it is to live with a narcissist. They run off and they throw themselves under the train or under the bus, and they just pass on because they have been destroyed completely. There's nothing more to live. There's no other reason for them to live. They completely run off, go and throw themselves under the bus, and just take their own life. That is how dangerous living with narcissists is. So I felt that kind of pain as well. But for me, it manifested differently because I remember when I was on those early weeks of the discard. So normally when the narcissist discards you, so normally what they do, they run off and start smearing your name everywhere. So they will tell everybody about you. You know what I mean? So they will also, on the other hand, they will keep on bringing the new supply in your face. So a lot of those times when you've been with the nurses and they've been cheating, so there's a new supply somewhere hidden in the corner. So they will usually come around. So they'll be posting a lot of these pictures on the social media. They'll be posting a lot of these funny, new pictures, new guy. We're on the holiday. We're on the beach. Maybe we are she's pregnant, or they have gotten married. So they'll make sure that they hit you in that way that you can really feel the pain, and that is when it's going to be very dangerous, because normally people when they have been with the nurses for 25 years, and then all of a sudden they just wake up one morning and they have been discarded for no reason. They don't understand what has happened. They don't have closure. The nurses has disappeared, and then all of a sudden in the next 10, 12 hours or a few minutes or days, there's somebody new. And then you're thinking that how come they've been with these people for all this for years, 20 plus years, 10 plus years, and then all of a sudden they have dumped you like you never met anything. So the trauma bond kicked in during the discard in that time, and I felt the intensity of that pain. So I remember one day, this is where now the video is going to get a little bit more serious. So one day I just woke up, I didn't know what I was doing. You know what I mean? I was going through pain, of course, in those early weeks. Now we're talking about the first discard, guys. Remember, I've told you guys that on the first discard, I had a theater awakened. So I did not know anything about narcissistic abuse. I didn't know what I was going through. I didn't know this individual was a narcissist. So the second discard is when I awakened. So that one I left. Actually, that second discard, it is me who left the narcissist peacefully. I walked out of it peacefully because I'd already started discovering all these things, and I knew that I had to get out very immediately. Of course, there was a little bit of pain, but I found a way of walking out. It was easier for me to walk out because I knew that I was dealing with abuse. So that time, I just remember waking up, and I'd already lost myself. So I'm going to simulate. I'm going to simulate to you guys the reason why people actually, after going through narcissistic abuse, they end up throwing themselves under the bus, or sometimes committing suicide, or sometimes they take their own life. I'm going to simulate to you exactly what is going on in those individuals' mind, because I've experienced that situation as well. So I just got up and I didn't know what I couldn't recognize myself anymore. So I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't understand any. I didn't understand. I couldn't understand anymore who I was at that moment. So I didn't know who I was. I could see things. This was a cup. This was a plate. But I was like, what am I even doing here? What's going on here? You know what I mean? So I couldn't recognize myself. So I got out of bed. I just put on a few clothes and I walked out of the house. I walked out of the house, and so I went and I jumped in the bus. Waking up in the morning and you do not have a destination. You're not going shopping. You're not going to a friend. You're not going to a relative. You're not going to work. You just wake up and you just start walking out of the house and you don't know where you're going. So that's what happened exactly. So I walked out of the house and I hopped on the bus, of course. And then, of course, I went to town. Then, of course, what happened now, I went to the train station and I found myself buying a ticket. I hopped on the train. I found myself buying a ticket and I hopped on the train. You could not ask me where I was going because I'm not sure that I knew anybody in those areas or I knew where I was going or things like that. I just hopped on the train. I sat and the train started moving. So the train went on like for about an hour. And then all of a sudden I was like, the train stopped there was a station. So I got off the train. I don't even remember the name of that station. I just got out of the train after like 1 hour. Then I started walking in that town. I started walking. Guys, I did not know what happened to me that day. I got out of my bed, I put on a few clothes, and I left the house. I did not eat breakfast. I did not eat anything. I did not even have a cup of tea. I just walked out of the house. I found myself on the bus and I found myself on the train. The train moved like for 1 hour. I got off the train and I started walking in the town that I didn't even know. And in that time, my mind is going through stuff. It is like, I don't know what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about a lot of things. I'm thinking about that. It's a lot of, my mind was like running at 100 miles an hour. So so I walk around in that place. I'm just looking at around with at people. I don't have anybody there. Nobody's even nobody knew where I was in that moment. So then I find myself on there's a place. It was like a place you could sit. So I'm sitting down there. There was a small area. I would sit there, and then I start looking at people going around. It's like um, there's a word I can say. What is the word? Because I was not in my normal senses at that moment, so I could see like I was in this kind of a simulation. You know what I mean? You're just sitting somewhere, and then it's like you see people moving around like robots. It is like you see cars like cruising in front of your face, and it's like you're just in the world, and it looks as if you're in some kind of a video game. So I was in some kind of a simulation. I was in some kind of a trance whereby I did not know what was going on. How I got there, why I got there, I couldn't even remember what time I got there. So what happened is that now I just see these people walk. They walk towards me. So this was two guys and a young girl. So they have a joint. They've got a joint. This this joint cigar, marijuana. So they've made a joint. So they're smoking a joint. So so they come and walk towards me. Then they are like, okay, what are you doing here? What's your name? This and this. I told them my name. So they had a joint. So they sit with me. They sit opposite me. A lot of them sit around me. And now we're starting to smoke the joint. So they're starting to pass the joint. Now remember, guys, I'm a guy who hasn't smoked, like, we're talking about weed. I haven't touched weed uh, for over 20 years, I think, if I remember well. Over 18 or 20 years. It's a long time ago. So these guys just come from there. I'm just sitting down under the tree somewhere. They come and sit around with me. And all of a sudden we start talking. I don't even know what we're talking about. And they start passing weed. So we start smoking weed. I had like about 3 or 4 puffs or something like that. And guys, that is exactly when the whole thing took off. Now, from that moment forwards, I completely lost myself. Now, I was already lost initially. Now, I'm starting to smoke this joint. And now I'm getting double lost. Now, I completely don't even know who I am. Then before I knew it, of course, these individuals had already left. So I didn't even know where they left. They took off somewhere. I don't know where they went. Now we're standing alone in the new town, helpless, vulnerable. I did not even know what I was doing. Sometimes I would even find myself walking in the way, in the highway. You know what I mean? So there was like this way where there was like only cars. You know what I mean? So I found myself sometimes walking into the highway, and then I would find myself going back to the little path, then into the highway, into the little path. Guys, I lost myself completely. I did not know what was going on, and then eventually I hopped on the bus. Now I saw this bus coming up, and then I hopped on the bus. So I hopped on the bus and I sat at the back of the bus, and the bus just kept on going. The bus went, I think, for around almost like 1.5 hours away from that place. So the bus reached where it was supposed to reach. At the end of the stop, it turned around, it came back with me. No, actually, I remember I came out of that bus because I remember the driver speaking that this is the end of this. This is the last stop. So I came out of the bus, and then I looked around a little bit. I didn't know what to do. I was very high on weed. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know why I was there even in the first place. There was nobody there. So then before the bus turned to come back to that place where it picked me, it stopped there like for about 2 or 3, maybe 5 minutes. So then I was like, okay, if I miss this bus, because this is the bus that brought me in this direction, if I miss this bus, I may not know how to get back to where I came from. So what I did, I jumped back into the bus, and I was like, okay, when someone recognized that place where I came from, I'll just jump off the bus. So I just sat in the bus, and the bus came back with me. And then, of course, by God's grace, of course, my stomach was burning. I was very hungry. I was very tired. So I was going through like that moment I was going through depression. You know what I mean? There was very, very serious depression going on in that time. That's when I noticed, because I understood these things later on, like after like a couple of days, because I kept on asking myself, how did I end up in that place? How did I wake up from my bed in the morning and I ended up in a place that I didn't know? You know what I mean? So that's when I knew that actually it was very possible for me on that particular day I would even lose my life. You know what I mean? So yeah, of course the bus came. It dropped me in that place where I was. I started walking. I didn't know where I was going. I was struggling. Even I would barely walk. I was struggling to walk from that moment. From that point forward, I would just keep on trying to ask because I would see people walking around. Like I've told you guys, I would just ask the guys, "Where's the train station?" So the guys would just direct me, "Oh, keep on walking like that." Keep on. I didn't know where the train station was because it was quite a walkable distance from the train station. So somewhere, somehow, God blessed me. I managed to reach the train station. I sat down a little bit, and then the train popped up, and I hopped on the train, and the train brought me back to my city. The first thing what I was asking myself, I was thinking in my mind, how did I leave this house today in the morning, and why? So I've told you guys. Let me tell you something. The reason why I'm telling you this story, I want to tell you something. The narcissists, their mission is to destroy you. But you see, the thing is, they do not want to put a finger on you. Now let me repeat this. The narcissists, their mission is to destroy you. So they want you dead. You can best believe the most hardest thing you'll ever hear today, they want you dead. But at the same time, they do not want to put a finger on you because when they put a finger on you, they're going to be held accountable. So they will do things behind your back, slowly, slowly, eventually, and start breaking you down piece by piece. So by the time they leave you, it's like they have left you for the dead. The narcissist almost knows the moment they discard you, they have left you for the dead. So that's the reason why you see when you bounce back from these narcissists, when you bounce back, they have planned to kill you at some point. It has failed. And then you bounce back. I can tell you something, the narcissist don't know what to do with you. The narcissist will never know this, will never see this coming. And the narcissist, this is something that is going to buffer the narcissist for the rest of their life. If the narcissist has tried to kill you before, to destroy you, you have bounced back from that pain. You have bounced back from that abuse. Guys, let me tell you something. A person that has bounced back from narcissistic abuse, that person is very dangerous. A person who has bounced back from after narcissistic abuse, that person is very dangerous. When it comes to toxic people, those kind of people, that person is very dangerous. That is the individual who knows how to break a narcissist completely. Because those individuals are already warriors. If they have healed, they have survived the abuse, they have healed, they have bounced back. Those are the individuals they call the warriors. Those are individuals the narcissists have got to stay away very far from them. Because those individuals, they know each and every little bit and each and every little move of the narcissist. Those individuals, they are going to break those narcissists to a degree they have never seen before. So those individuals who are capable of breaking the narcissist, they may be simple guys. When you see them, you may almost think they are stupid, they don't know, they are naive, they don't know nothing. But those individuals, when they start opening their mouth, if you're a narcissist, you're going to run very far away from them. You may normally see them quiet because I've told you guys, super empaths are very quiet people. You will see them quiet, seated in the corner, very reserved people. They may not even want to speak. But when a narcissist has met those individuals and they open their mouth, the narcissist is going to run very far away from them because they are going to know what those individuals can do to them. They will know straight away. So they are very dangerous individuals. So me personally, I got an experience. Fortunately, God helped me. Like I've told you guys, chosen ones, you guys, you already know you are protected. You always be guided somewhere, somehow. You know that somewhere, the universe knows. God knows that you haven't done anything wrong. You know what I mean? God knows you have not done anything wrong. And on the other hand, I've told you guys on the spiritual level, you have got a lot of protection around you. So sometimes you will see the things happening to you. But at the end of the day, you're going to come back and come out at the top. So for some reason, it doesn't matter what happens to you. You are always going to come out at the top. You know what I mean? So anything could have happened that day. You know what I mean? Because I've told you guys in that time, I did not know what was going on. I'd already lost my mind. I don't know how I got to that place. I don't know how I left home and even why I left home in the first place. I did not know where I was. And I was very vulnerable in that time. And I think that's when the devil thought that, okay, since this guy is now vulnerable and is weak, then they sent these 3 teams. Because I've told you guys, the chosen one, you'll always be gang stalked. You'll always meet people Oh, how are you? What's your name? And this. Let us smoke this and let us have a drink. And before you know it, that's the end. Sometimes you might even just have one shot of a drink, and that's it. It will be the end of your life. So for me, I would find myself in those days running into the highway, and I would think that even I would be hit by a car in those days or something like that. So it was a very dangerous situation. I was in a very vulnerable state, and anything could have happened. And in my opinion, I think that is the day that I escaped the death. You know what I mean? Because that's the day that I thought I would even sometime end my life. You know what I mean? So I'm not really surprised why, after long periods of abuse, people come out and then you hear that somebody has jumped in the train. Somebody they shot themselves, or someone has thrown themselves under the bus, or somebody has thrown themselves over the bridge. A lot of those guys, they go through those kind of incidents, but for them, like I've said, you guys, everybody has got a different strength. So some people are strong, some people are weak. So sometimes you can find a person is weak. They just go and stand over the bridge and they just throw themselves over the bridge. Sometimes people can even jump from a skyscraper. And then the nurses will say that, oh, we don't know what happened, but they jumped over the balcony. I didn't even touch them. So the nurses has got to make sure that they do not participate. Most the psychopaths will participate. They're the guys who will come around and shoot their families or kill their families or poison their families. But the nurses will stay on the background, and they'll be watching you kill your life and take your own life. So that's the reason why you see narcissists. When you've left those narcissists, what they do, they will come around and try to sneak on you. They want to know what's going on with you. The narcissist, there's nobody who is as concerned in your business as a narcissist who has discarded you. They have discarded you, everything is okay. Okay, that's the end of it. Go your way, I'm going my way. The narcissist, they're the first people who are going to keep on stalking. They are going to stalk you like never before because they want to know, are you still breathing? You guys have been discarded. You have left the narcissist. The narcissist wants to know, are you still breathing? Are you still alive? They want to know that because they know the magnitude and they know the extent at which they have broken you down. So mental abuse, this kind of abuse, narcissistic abuse, it goes direct in the brain. You know what I mean? So the first thing what they do, they take away your power from you. Very slowly, I've told you guys, they trauma bond you, then they take all the power away from you. So that now you start to act like they're robots. You know, they are extensions of robots. So now you start to do what they want to do, what they want you to do. You know what I mean? So they slowly steal the power from you. You guys have seen celebrities. You've recently you've seen the case of Will Smith. How rich is Will Smith? But you've seen him the way you can even be able to pull that kind of stunt in front of crowds of people. That is how much powerful a Jezebel is. So the Jezebel, normally they will take away your power first of all, because they know that you've got a lot of power and they can see your star. So normally what they do, they dim, first of all, they dim your light and they take your power from you. Then they can be able now to control you like a remote. They don't have to do anything. You just get up and do things for them. So that's how powerful a Jezebel is. Those Jezebels. You know what I mean? And I'm not talking about power because I want to give them a lot of credit and things like that. But I know in that sense, during the abuse, especially at that moment when they've taken power from you, they are very powerful in that moment. So it's very dangerous when they're with those Jezebels. So do not be surprised, guys, when you find yourself thinking about committing suicide. You've started getting suicidal thoughts. You've started getting ideas about taking your own life. I've been there. I've reached that point whereby I was like, I couldn't see in that moment the reasons of life. So that's the reason why when I experienced that moment, I was like, okay. Every time I remembered that moment. And you see what happened? The good thing is, you see, guys, I've always told you guys we are protected. I've told you guys, chosen ones, we are protected. And I've told you, if you have experienced a narcissistic mask sleep, you are a chosen one. In each and every way, you're a chosen one. So you know what time it is. The universe will choose you specifically to look these demons in the eyes and to see them for the very first time for who they are. These are demons. Guys, you should stop. And I think the easier people start understanding this whole thing is demonic, that is the easier healing is going to start. The very moment you come to that conclusion that you're fighting a demonic warfare, that is when your healing is going to start immediately. You will never see it at the rate at which you're going to heal, because you're ready now to start fighting this way. You're going to change. the weapons. When you finally understood that you're fighting a demonic warfare, it's a spiritual battle. You will change the weapons. You will not be using the same physical weapons you've been using. When they told you that these individuals are whatever disordered, so you're going to change the techniques. The battleground on the battleground, you're going to change the techniques. So that's what we do. So those days, I was wondering, and I hated myself those days. I was like, why am I attached to a person who is trying to destroy me? Who was always trying? Who was always? Why was I attached to a person who had always been trying to destroy me over the years? Why was I attached to a toxic person? That was the question I asked myself in those days. I did not know why I could not let the narcissist go. Guys, let me tell you something. There's something what they call a trauma bond. When I talk about breaking empaths free, I know what I'm talking about. I know what is a trauma bond. So the trauma bond, it will hook you with the narcissist until the trauma bond breaks. That is when you're going to get your freedom. If that trauma bond, if you have not broken the trauma bond, the narcissist will come back at some point and they're going to come in. So for me in those days, of course, I got the Hoover. It was about a couple of weeks later. Could have been like 3-4 weeks after that incident, maybe like 5 weeks. So I got the Hoover in those days. So I think God was like, okay, so you have not yet seen it all. You think you have seen it all. That is not everything. You need to wait, be patient with yourself. There's something more I need to show you because I want to confirm to you what you've been dealing with. So God allowed me to come back into this entanglement because God wanted me to see exactly what I was dealing with. You know what I mean? Because those days, the narcissist had already run off with somebody new. But because I was still struggling with this bond, the trauma bond, I hadn't yet broken away from this individual emotionally. So God was like, I'm going to bring you back in that entanglement because I still want you to see something. And guys, that's what happened. So I came back in those days. And of course, before I knew it all, a little bit of love bomb, and I started to see a lot of things I couldn't see before. You know what I mean? In those days, I saw the narcissist manifest so many things that I could never see before. I was like, how come this individual before I couldn't see this 7 years? How come she's doing like this? I started to see this pattern slowly, one by one. Physically, psychologically, I started to read the narcissist slowly. Then I noticed there was a pattern that had been going on for very many periods of years. I just couldn't see this. And then eventually after that, after I'd seen everything I'd seen, my bulbs went on. Then I woke up. And then that's when I was like, okay, now I'm ready to leave. You know, when I woke up eventually and I knew that this whole thing was demonic and everything, I saw whatever it is I saw. I was like, I need to find a way to leave this individual because now I know who this person is and what is the motive. Because you see, you guys have been discarded. And then you see the narcissist sneaking back in your life. You think that they love you, they want to come back because they love you. The narcissist is coming back to finish. If you see a narcissist hovering you, the narcissist is coming back to finish what they didn't finish the other time. So you try to escape in those days and they sneaked up on you, they stalked you, they noticed you are still breathing. So they'll hover you back in that relationship because they want to finish up that game of taking your life. So the narcissist wants you dead. The narcissist wants you dead. And you're going to have to make a very tough decision. Guys, I've already told you guys before, when you have seen it, you cannot unsee it. For the most of us who have seen narcissists, we have lived with them, we know who they are, we've healed from them, because me now you cannot tell me any story about narcissists. If you come and tell me, you sit down with me and you start telling me about these personality disorders, I'll walk away from the room. If you sit with me and you start telling me narcissists about this personality, this and personality that, I'll walk out of the room. Because I don't want to hear it. A person has been fighting a spiritual warfare, then you're coming around and telling them that they've been dealing with somebody with a psychological personality disorder. I'll walk out of that room. Because I know what is narcissism eventually. I know the depth of narcissism. So when you're dealing with the spiritual warfare, you have to remember, guys, there is consequences in there. There is deaths involved. There is very deep abuse, emotional, mental abuse. Sometimes it comes with a lot of consequences, because when you're dealing with demons, These demons do not have any empathy. So they do not have any feeling of what you want or what are your values or things like that. The only thing they do is just to come around and bring you down, kill you right completely, even sometimes physically take your own life. So when you're dealing with narcissistic abuse, is very intensive as it can get. If you've seen it, you cannot unsee it. For the most of us, we've woken up, and I still thank God that until this moment I've got the courage. And God has opened this platform for me to help more people around the world. Because I know what I've seen. Nobody can convince me otherwise. My family cannot convince me otherwise. No, my friends can. I don't care what kind of medics. I do not care what amount of degrees they hold. They cannot convince me otherwise. I know what is narcissism, and I know what is narcissistic abuse. So guys, let me know in this comment section below. Of course, you guys already know. You guys already have got your own experiences. You can always let us know what has been your experience. If you would like me to go live on this channel, on this video, let us know, and I'll find one of these coming days, and we shall go live and we'll discuss further, so that we can make an interactive. Actually, I think we should do that very soon. We make an interactive, and I'll give you guys a platform just to share your own experience. How did you go through the Discord? What exactly happened in those days? Because I've had a lot of guys have got different experiences. People have got suicidal thoughts. Some people have actually ended up in psychiatric hospitals. Some people have ended up in different kinds of situations. But you're dealing with narcissists. It's a life or death situation. So it's very intensive and very, very serious. You know what I mean? So people should stop sugarcoating narcissists and putting some honey on their faces. You know what I mean? People should stop. You hear doctor this and doctor that, and then they're putting some sugar on their faces. You know, because, you know, they are something happened, this and that, and then they say, you can forget about it. Narcissism is demonic. You come out, tell the people what they need to know and what they're dealing with. It is going to be very easy for people to start healing the moment they understand what they're dealing with. But when you keep on coming and sugarcoating it and smearing their faces with honey, they've already destroyed people, and you're telling people about their personality disorders. You're helping narcissists to get away with their abuse. That is number one. And secondly, you're making it difficult for people who have been through that abuse to heal. When you talk about personality disorders, number one, you're helping narcissists to get away with their abuse. So nobody's going to be prosecuting them because they're going to be thinking they've got some kind of a disorder, which disorder somebody's not even going to mention in court. The only thing you'll hear courts talking about is, oh, there was domestic violence. The police, they go around those family homes, oh, domestic violence. A man did this to his wife and this and that. Domestic violence. You're dealing with a psychopath. And the law enforcement is coming around and talking about domestic violence. It's two different things altogether. So, of course, guys, let me know what you think about this video. It has been as organic as I could get. And I've tried to share a lot with you in this video. Of course, my experience, the Discord, what I went through, and how it almost took my life. You know what I mean? I thank God for my life. And I thank God for this platform, because I've continued to raise my voice and to bring out the message the way it is, organically, and speak my truth. Guys, if you want to speak your truth, I've told you, you've got a chance. You've always got a chance to speak your truth. My platform is there. You can use my platform, the Empath Speaker Project, or you can wait for the lives we'll do. I'll always invite you if you want to, and you can always talk about your story in detail. So until then, guys, let me know what you think about this video. You can always donate and support to this channel if you want to. Book a session with me, guys. We can go into the details of narcissistic abuse, spirituality, and personal development. And until then, much love and blessings. There's the most signing out, and I'll catch you in my next one. Peace.